Hey everybody, how we doing out there? Welcome into the latest edition of the Belly Up Fantasy Live Baseball Edition. And of course, as always, I'm joined by my man Vince, and we have a special guest for you guys coming at you, as we're joined today by Mike Brown, and he is the guy that has made this whole thing possible. Him and Blaine, and we are glad to have you with us, Mike. How you doing tonight?
Good. I appreciate you guys having me, even though I kind of held you hostage and said let me jump on tonight. But you guys are the ones that are making this happen. I'm just a small portion of it. You guys are the ones that make it move. So looking forward to being on with you guys tonight.
All right, Vince, how we doing tonight?
Man, I'm doing wonderful. We had a lot of rain this week. Now the sun came out today, and it's just cooler weather. And really, it's ideal baseball weather today, at least in central Kentucky.
Well, we got great weather down here in the Dallas area as well, and that would be great. But the Rangers are on the road, so that doesn't really help us around here. And so, before we start getting into fantasy topics, we always like to talk about what's going on in Major League Baseball. And guys, we have breaking news tonight because the third no-hitter of the season was pitched today by, and you probably saying to yourself, hey, this is probably a well-known pitcher, and he is a pretty good quality pitcher. But John Means of the Baltimore Orioles threw the third no-hitter of the season tonight, and it is believed that he has made history because he is the first man that is known to lose a perfect game on a wild pitch, third strike, where the batter reached first base. So, baseball has been around for 140 years now or whatever it is, but there are still firsts that are going on in baseball. That's one of the great things about the sport. And Vince, did you know this was happening today?
Yeah, I knew about it because I got an alert, I think, in the eighth inning. But I did not know about the wild pitch, though. That's painful.
That's the only guy that got on base, and they subsequently threw him out at second trying to steal. So he faced the minimum 27 batters, but he does not get the perfect game because he got the first. So, baseball, what can you say? It's a great game, and we are glad that you guys are joining us tonight. Breaking news, as I said. And so last week, Vince, we talked about the Dodgers and was it time to be concerned? And we both agreed that it was not. Here we are 1 week later, and they've won one game. So I put the same question to you this week. Is it time for Dodgerville to be concerned about the team?
No. I mean, they're still only one game back in the division. They still have the highest run differential, I think, in Major League Baseball. They definitely have it in the NL. I'm looking right now. Yeah, they have the largest run differential in all of Major League Baseball at plus 38. But they are 2-8 in their last 10, so it's a bad stretch for them. But they've got the pitchers and the offense and the defense that they can rebound from this, and I just think it's a matter of time. Los Angeles, they've kind of got a little curse going on them right now in all sports, all across the board.
It used to be down in Houston, but it seems like it's traveled over to L.A. So, Mike, what do you think about the Dodgers right now?
No, I agree with Vince. Same thing. They're built for the long haul. It's early. You don't even have Bellinger. Mookie kind of started off a little slow. A few games. I saw Bauer gave up a bomb the other night. He's great to follow on Twitter if you don't follow him. But in general, it's too early. That team is too stacked. There's a lot. I know we're going to talk about it, but there's a lot of injuries in baseball. I was going through rosters today.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
There's some teams. I mean. Yeah, there's teams that have 9-10 injuries. LA's up there. The Cubs. We'll talk about that, but no need to hit the panic button yet.
Okay, well, right off the bat when we did our first episode, I made it clear I was a Dodger fan. So, and I am still a fan. So they can go 2-8, but it's May. But if they're going 2-8 in September, and we're going to have to revisit this. So,
looking at some quick stats, Kevin, Los Angeles, they're second in the league in RBIs but just one behind Colorado. They're third in the league for total hits. They're still up there in even the hitting categories. They're first in quality starts. They're second in strikeouts on the pitching end of things. They're third in ERA for pitchers as well. So they're just fine. It's just a bad stretch.
Okay, so now we got that straight, and Mikey hit on it a little bit. We injuries. That is the story that has been going on in Major League Baseball, and unfortunately, Vince, I thought we'd be talking about Yelich back in the lineup. He was there one day. Now he's back on the injured list. So, any updates on him?
Man, the Brewers are they're hurting so bad right now. Corbin Burns on the injured list. I think it's COVID related, but Yelich, he came in his first at bat. Man, he looked good, sharp hit. Things were going smooth. Lorenzo Cain came back the same night also.
I saw that.
But Yelich, man, they're being really, really cautious with him right now. There's still so much to go in the season, and you get a talent like Yelich, you want him to be healthy. And right now they can afford to have him sitting out because some of their other guys have really stepped up offensively. They've already been great defensively, but offensively the other outfielders have stepped up too for Milwaukee. So, man, you hate to see it. You want to, Major League Baseball needs superstars, and Mike Trout's playing great right now. Yelich is one of those guys who looked like he was going to really help build the league, but last year was a bad year, and now the injuries, bugs hitting him. So you hate to see it.
Yeah, you do hate to see it, and I'm kind of in my fantasy team, Juan Soto, and they activated him off the injured list, but he can't throw still. So that is the problem. He'll pinch hit, which does not help anyone, least of all the team, but not me either. So it's very what's the word I'm looking for? On the south side of Chicago, things are not looking good at all. And this is something that we could talk about. Luis Robert, is that how you pronounce his last name, Ben?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, so he is out maybe for the season. So, Mike, if you own this guy in fantasy, what do you do with him?
Yeah, I mean that's one of those things that we talked about on the basketball show. Like I play a little different. I can hang on to my stars. It depends on where you're drafting them, but a lot of those guys, no matter what, we talked about Kevin Durant, in basketball, it's a comparison. He pretty much sat out the majority of the season, but that's a guy that like you're waiting for him to come back. He's a first round pick, so you wanna risk it a lot longer than maybe some of those middle round guys. So somebody like him, I don't think you're gonna put all your eggs in one basket with him. Baseball's a long season, a lot of transactions, depending on what kind of league you're in. There can be inning caps depending on what you're doing. But you can't afford, whether you're going head to head or rotisserie scoring, you can't afford to leave empty slots on your bench, especially, like I said, long season. If you need one win, whether, like I said, it's a week league, a week long league, or day to day, you can't afford to kind of ride those guys out. There's plenty of diamonds in the rough. We'll talk about obviously the pickups and drops. You're going to be able to ride those guys where they're hot. So I necessarily wouldn't ride anybody like that unless on the other end we're talking about Yelich. You see him come back for one game. That's a guy that same situation, but you're not going to pull the trigger and drop him near as fast.
I've been trying to trade for Yelich. I've been trying to trade for Yelich all season because but nobody's selling. Everybody's holding on to him. They refuse to let go of him. And I've offered what I felt like were some pretty solid offers. And at the end of the day, it's like, well, it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah, I think for me, if I had him on my team and he wasn't coming back till August, maybe, I think I would drop him. But it depends on how many injury spots you have on your team. And I've already got 3 guys on my injured list. So if I had him as well, I might have to consider dropping him.
Well, step one is to try to trade. You go out and you try to fill your cupboards with healthy guys. Right. You got to test the leagues, right? Whether the guys are not in your league, you got to put the feelers out there and say, hey, and you just make an offer that's crazy offer that you wouldn't even accept. But hey, you start with that, and then you work your way down and see if you can get the most out of them. I don't ever drop somebody that's would be in the top 80, 90 percentile until I've tried to trade them first, and then if I need to drop them, then I will.
All right, that sounds fair. And one of the things that's been going on the last couple of weeks is, of course, you guys know I put out an article every week about pickups on the waiver wire. And that's one of the things when you actually put yourself out there, you actually wind up stepping in it. And the reason why I bring that up is because I recommended Guillermo Heredia from the Atlanta Braves. Well, guess what? He's on the injured list. I recommended picking up Nico Horner. Is that how you?
Yep.
From the Cubs, he was really swinging the bat well, and he had booted Bodie to the bench. And I was like, man, pick this guy up. He's top priority. Guess what? Injured list. And Navarez, of course, Vince, this, the catcher. And guess what? Injured list. So sometimes, you put yourself out there and rough stuff just happens. So
it's the Kevin Wilson curse. You gotta see who you're writing about.
So, Mike, who would you say is the most surprising team so far in Major League Baseball?
It's tough because I feel like, there's those teams that get hot. I mean, this is tapered off a few weeks, but I think, in the very beginning, people were surprised, not that they were going to make any real noise, but the Tigers started off and they exceeded expectations right out the gate. Granted, since then they've come back to life. There's nothing good going in Detroit in any sports. That's my team, so I can talk about them. But I think more so this year, there's more letdowns. I mean, we're talking about the Dodgers slow start. You're really not going to worry about them. I don't really have one team that really, really stands out because, again, baseball is such a long season. It's hard to start, a show like this early in the season and talk about those teams. It's more so those teams that are kind of letting you down right now. But I mean, what do you got, Vince, Kevin? I mean, you guys got a team that really maybe is overperforming, but are you really thinking that they're going to make that leap, or are they really going to contend towards the end?
Yeah, that's two questions that are different for sure. Teams that I think are surprising, I got three of them. Boston is one of those. They're 18-12. They're 6-4 in the last 10. They've got a good run differential as well, leading the division right now. But it's not going to hold through the end of the season, I don't think. Kansas City has to be one right now, 16-12. They have a negative run differential, yet they still lead their division right now. And then the other team, San Francisco. I've been really impressed with San Francisco. Their pitching staff has been performing pretty well. They've got Yastrzemski on the injured list, and he's been there now for about a week or so, and they're still kind of plugging along. They're 5-5 in the last 10. They're crushing it at home, 10-3 at home. They're 8-10 on the road, but that's a tough division there in the West, and San Francisco stands out probably as the most surprising team for me at this point.
I have to agree with you on that one, Vince. And this pains me to the uttermost of my being, because as a Dodger fan, you cannot be a Giants fan. It just can't happen. But I have to agree with you, Vince. The Giants were the most surprising team in baseball. No one was really thinking that they were going to do anything. It was going to be Dodgers, and it was going to be the Padres battling it out all season. Well, guess what? The Giants are in first right now, and they're getting the pitching, they're getting the hitting. And so they are my most surprising team. And switching that over, what about the most disappointing team, Vince? What do you think about that?
How about the entire NL East? I mean,
if we want to talk about division,
it's all of them. I mean, the Phillies lead the division; they're at 500. The Nationals 12-13, the Mets 11-13, the Braves 13-16. All four of those teams have negative run differentials. Marlins are the only team in the division with a positive run differential, and they're last in the division. Yeah. So, to me, it's the entire NL East, and I'll throw the Twins in there also. The Twins have been wretched.
They've been horrible. That is my personal choice. If we're going to go outside of picking whole divisions, Minnesota Twins have just been terrible. They haven't been able to hit. Their pitching's terrible. I don't know if you noticed that their bullpen came up. and gave up a bunch of runs yesterday. And that's really tough on me because I got Kenta Maeda is on my fantasy team, and that bullpen has let him down a couple of times already. So I'm going with the Twins. What do you think, Mike?
No, I was going to say the Twins, but I'll throw it out to the Braves. I know you talk about that entire division, but there's something about the Braves. I mean, obviously Washington. I mean, I feel like those teams are pretty well loaded. But after what the Braves did, that young core, that nucleus, you think of it after having a good season last year, coming back this year, one more year together, like Vince said, it nailed it right there. I mean, that entire division just laid an egg, but I'm going to throw it out to the Braves.
I was skeptical of the Braves pitching staff coming into the season, but I didn't think it would be this bad either. At the same time, they're a team that they've got fun people to watch, great young squad, but their pitching, to me, they needed to address that in the offseason. I didn't feel like they did a good job job with that.
Well, you know what they do have, Vince, is they have pitchers that can hit grand slams.
That's right.
So, if you happen to have that young man on your team, it doesn't help you fantasy wise, but it's kind of cool to see a pitcher hit a grand slam. So I got to give a gold star out to that. And before we transition to our next subject, we have sponsors, as you all know, and the first one is Manscaped. And with the first pick of the 2021 men's grooming draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Manscaped, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming. Looks like Mel Kiper gave us an A-plus grade because this pick is a major upgrade for that Bush defense. For all my NFL draft fans, we have an exclusive 20% off promo code, BellyUpFantasy at Manscaped.com. The reason why Manscaped is the guaranteed number one pick is because of the performance package. This package is the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Inside the performance package, you'll find products and liquid formations that have been developed to turn your bathroom into a salon. For your ball support and show and get 20% off plus free shipping with the code. And we know what the code is, right, Vince? It's Belly Up
Fantasy
at Manscaped.com. All right. So moving on to the next subject, we're actually going to dive into some fantasy subjects. And one of the questions, I think, because we're, 5 weeks into the season now or so. And if you had a chance to redo your first round pick, would you change or would you stay the same?
So I'm in 3 leagues, and 2 of them are keeper leagues, so that makes it a little harder. But I would say I'd change this year. Trevor Story had him. He was actually one of my 2 keepers in the league, but he was the top guy on my team, and I've already traded him. I traded him for Woodruff, the pitcher. But I don't think I'd stick with him. The other one was Yelich. And at this point, if I'm going to take you number 1, I think it was 5th overall, but I'm going to need you to actually play. So I would say at this point, it's been a disappointment.
So, Mike, what do you think? What would you change your mind if you had a first round pick?
I'm probably in the minority because I was a Trout guy, so I got Trout. So I'm sitting pretty right now. But yeah, I mean, anybody outside of that right now, I mean,
he's hitting almost 500.
Yeah, so this was easy when I saw this topic. Yeah, I was like, okay, this is an easy one for me. So, but Kevin, how many leagues you in?
Well, I had the 4th pick in my draft, and I went with Juan Soto, and he was the guy that I actually thought could go first overall because he really put it together last year. So I took him. I would have considered Trout, but he went 1 pick before I did. And so I picked Soto. He's been injured. And if I had it to do over again, and this might sound crazy, but I think I'd go Jacob Degrom because this guy has just been out of his mind, even though he had a start pushback this week and he has some kind of a lat problem. But this guy is just unbelievable. And he might be, if you hold him up, he's the fantasy guy of the year so far. And I had thought before the season began that the Mets would score runs for him, but it has not happened. So, but other than that, he's been golden. So if I had the number 4 pick, I would take Jacob Degrom myself. And I think I'd be in great shape.
Yeah, Degrom's ADP average draft position was 6th this year. He was the first pitcher on average taken right in front of Garrett Cole. And, it depends on how your league scores, but when you get a top-notch pitcher like Degrom, the problem with Degrom is he doesn't get the wins because his team doesn't give him run support.
So it depends on what your league scoring is. And in the league I'm in, a win is 5 points. So, you can live without 5 points if he, strikes out 15 and does all the rest and pitches it. Because the other day he allowed one, and still was the losing pitcher.
I feel like this has been like the Mets MO for like the past 10 years. Like just a complete stack pitching staff. I mean, they're sub 1 ERA. They're not going to get you wins. They're going to fill out every other stat category, and then they can't afford the guys, and they got to ship them out. I mean, it's just we're not even talking about Thor. He's been on the the IL. He's been injured this year. I mean, that pitching staff in general. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think. I feel like they just keep recycling these guys. Like they've got to have a great scouting department, at least for the pitchers.
Yeah.
And so moving on. What about who would you say, Vince, has been the most disappointing first-round pick so far this year?
Disappointing first-round pick?
Yeah. Average, in the first round.
I would say probably. Well, I just had it pulled up, and now I don't have it up anymore. Skip me. Come back to me in just a second.
Okay, Mike, you have any input on that?
This was kind of borderline because depending on again where you're at. I was in a league where Altuve was taken pretty late in the first round. I think like 11 or 12. He still snuck up there. In past, that's always a guy that's almost going to bat 330, 350. So you're going to have some good batting average. He's gonna run into a few home runs. He's going to get you some runs. This year, I mean, he's batting below 250, I believe. He's not really getting a whole lot of anything. I know Houston's not exactly what they used to be. Verlander's not even pitched. Not that has anything to do with Altuve, but where I seen Altuve going, I was surprised with him going as high as he was, and then what he's production wise so far. Where I see him, he has been a first round pick. So him, I would say Mookie too has that opportunity, but again, we're 5 weeks in. He, just the whole Dodgers. I'm sure they're going to turn it on. Mookie, it's just one of those guys. He's young. I just feel like Altuve is on the backside of his career where Mookie can turn it around a lot easier, even though, Altuve, even for him to turn it around, all he'll probably have like 8 games in a row where he's got 4 singles. He's not going to get you a whole lot, but he's going to get that batting average up. I feel like he can always get that batting average up. So yeah, most drafts you wouldn't see him going that first round or really right there, but I did see him going in a few. So that was my pick just based off of that.
If you remember, Vince, Altuve was one of the guys that scared me off this year. So I didn't have him in the first round, but to me, the most disappointing first-round pick has to be Francisco Lindor. This guy has completely fallen off the planet. As I look at this, he's hitting 163 with 1 homer, 3 RBIs. He has no stolen bases and a 284 on-base percentage. That stinks. So, and I think that if you took
$400 million will get you.
Position in general, there are a lot of players that you could put in that position, but Francisco Lindor leads the pack to me. So, Vince, back over to you.
All right, I'm going to throw out Freddie Freeman. He was a guy that I was not huge on coming into the season. Right. He's batting 208. It's not been all bad. He's got 7 home runs, but only 18 RBIs. 20 walks, that helps, but to me, it's just not enough. For me, most of the first-round guys have, for the most part, done their job, I suppose. I guess for me, a little bit more of it was guys that have fell out a little bit later in the draft, but still have way underperformed. Keston Hiura, I had to drop in all of my leagues because he's not even on the active roster anymore. And then Travis d'Arnaud, the catcher in Atlanta, there was a lot of high hopes for him this year, and so far he has not helped out very much.
Yep, got to agree with you on that. And just to throw this out there, because just this morning I saw that Patrick Corbin became available in my league. He has an 8.10 ERA. So, Vince, if you saw that, would would you think about making a move on him?
I had him, and I got rid of him. So I'm off the Patrick Corbin train.
It's a fair point.
Vince is the one that dropped him. No.
Yeah.
But the last time he did pitch, he pitched 7 innings, had 2 runs, 4 hits. So, I'd probably click the watch list on him and just see how things go. Any opinion on him, Mike?
No, I mean, that's what I like to do. I like to line up all these guys on the watch list, and usually I watch them too long. By the time I go to pull that trigger, then I realize it's not a watch list anymore. It's a trade list. You have to trade for them, and I'm like, screw it. So that's kind of what baseball is about. Like I said, long season. You want to get ahead of those games. All you're doing, you're playing week to week. These guys are getting hot, unless they're your top 5 or 6 picks. You're just rotating the roster. What I used to do, like I said, depending on if you're in an innings cap league, you could, where we had unlimited pickups, or we would cap it at like 10 a week, So, if you're hurting for pitching at the end of the week, you're just going to drop those kind of bums on your roster and just load up pitching and get those points. So it depends on what kind of league. There's a lot of different formats, but a lot of those mid-round, later round guys, even if I'm watching them, I'm not too concerned about it one way or another.
One of the things that I've caught myself doing is I'm watching the watch list, but I'm not actually watching the guys on my roster. So I don't drop guys when I should drop guys because I'm too busy seeing what's available or unavailable, and I'm not seeing how bad my guys are actually doing in front of me.
Well, I overlooked that too.
Mike, as you're well aware, because Mike and I were in a basketball league together, and as he saw, I led the league in transactions on I'm the exact same way, especially in baseball, because there is no cap on the amount of transactions you can make in most leagues. There isn't in mine. And I think I wrote it down here. So far, I've made 47 acquisitions since the season began. And I didn't look at the other players, but I'm pretty sure that might be, leading the league right there. So I'm always churning the bottom of the roster, and you got guys that just slow down, and there are so many players that are on the wire to make a move. So that's what I normally do. If somebody, I look and he's 0 for 10 and he's not, star, hit the brick or out, the outhouse, as we made known in our basketball league. But
there you go.
So Vince, what about a player that you weren't convinced on coming into the season that has turned you around so far? Is there any player that you can think of?
I've got 2. I got a batter and a pitcher for you. The batter is Andrew Benintendi.
Okay, I was not him. That guy was dirt as far as I was concerned. But.
He's got 40 RBIs, 5 steals. He's batting .278. He's helping my team. The pitcher I've got is Dylan Cease from the White Sox. I might be saying that last name wrong. In his first 4 games, he pitched 17 innings.
Right.
Okay. In his first four games, he pitched 17 innings. He had 8 earned runs, 20 strikeouts. In his last 2 games, he's pitched 13 innings, 0 earned runs, 20 strikeouts. He's coming around right now.
Flip the switch.
Well, Vince, one of the guys that we talked about right off the bat in our first show that none of us were sold on really, and that guy to me is Trevor Bower. You mentioned him earlier, Mike, and we didn't know what to make of him coming into the season, and he had an ADP of the second round, and we were like, I don't know if we're going to take a pitcher that's number 3 on their roster in the second round, but when you look at it, he's 3-1. He has a 2.44 ERA, 0.789 WHIP. And if you remember his first start, Colorado, he pitched 6 no-hit innings. So he announced himself right out of the gate. And even though it seems like he's got more authorities coming after him than a serial killer, he's the guy that he's given at least 6 innings every start. So I'll hand it to Trevor Bower. He's turned me around completely. He is a pitcher that you want on your team. So, Mike, any players that have turned you around so far?
You guys are actually making it really easy because literally I'm looking at my list here, and I had Cease on the bottom of my list. I had Benintendi, and then I love Bauer. Like I said, I think it's just because I love following him on Twitter. I mean, I know he's a great pitcher, but
he'll give you a great quote.
Dodgers organization. Yes, but again, we're talking. We keep talking about the Dodgers, but it's so true that once that team gets healthy, they're going to hit stride. I mean, that pitching staff, they're going to get run support, so that's a no-brainer for somebody like him. Like you said, for a pitcher, second rounder, third rounder, early third rounder, depending on where you're looking at. That's tons of value for that situation. He's going to load you up on strikeouts. He usually gets the win. He always has a decent ERA. So that's definitely somebody that, even though I agree with you, even though he's consistent every year, he's bounced around from some teams. I mean, you saw when he was in Cincinnati, Cleveland, even those teams that necessarily weren't getting all the wins, he was Cy Young. I mean, he's running for all these awards. I mean, now he's with the team that's going to score him runs and really support him. So he's kind of an afterthought until you really get to see him, flourish in a team that's really scoring runs and giving him some run support.
Yep, you nailed that one, Mike. So let's move on to Vince. Who would you say would be an excellent waiver pickup this week?
You mentioned him earlier talking about pitchers who can rake. Huascar Yino from Atlanta. He is a Braves starting pitcher. He's only owned by, I think, 38% of teams in ESPN leagues. His last 2 games, he's got 12.1 innings, 13 strikeouts, 0 earned run average, and 2 wins. He's a guy, again, is he going to stick all year? I don't know, but at this current moment, he's a great pickup to add to your pitching staff. He's going to keep the ERA down, plus get you some wins along with the other stats.
Yep, I got to agree with you on that one, Vince. And those out there that read my article every week will recognize that I had him on my roster, so to speak.
Oh, great. He's going to get hurt this week.
So, yeah. But if you happen to pick him up this week, congratulations to you, because he really, really turned it on this week. So, Vince, a guy that we talked about last week that I said this guy needs to hit the bricks hard, and that's a guy that Hunter Dozier from the Kansas City Royals, because he was hitting like 125 or something crazy like that. Well, guess what? This week he has 3 straight 2-hit games. He's hit 2 home runs. He qualifies at first, third in the outfield. So, and he's only available in 31% of leagues. So, if he continues to hit like that, that's going to go way up. So he has turned me, talk about guys that have turned you around. He has turned me around completely. And the Royals themselves, as you mentioned, Vince, they're a team that have they've done it right this year. So Hunter Dozier is a guy that I have at number 1. And Vince, you'll be very surprised because, as you know, there are no relief pitchers on my team, on my fantasy team. But Kendall Graven from the Seattle Mariners, relief pitcher, he has an 0.00 ERA. He has not allowed an earned run so far this season coming out of the bullpen for the Mariners. 0.45 whip, 37% owned. So if you're one of those guys that like to have relief pitchers on your team, look into him. He's getting saves. He's getting holds. So, like I said, I'm not a relief pitcher guy on my team, but if you're one of those out there and you need relief pitcher help, look into him. Mike, who do you have for us?
I got a few guys, actually, and it's kind of hard because some of these guys, they have the name to go behind it. And I was looking through ESPN and going through some statistics and stuff like that. And then there's like a most added players list. And it may be a little too late, but I had Dylan Cease. He was available in a lot of leagues, but I think in this past week, people are starting to jump on that. Another thing is Buster Posey. People really weren't high on him, and he's starting to come around. And then another thing is Jesus Aguilar for Miami, first baseman. I know a lot of these guys by now are probably pretty well picked up, but if you're looking for like some power quick, just to win you a few weeks, right now, Paul DeJong, is that how you pronounce it, for St. Louis right now, is just on an absolute tear. He's got 10 home runs. Granted, he's batting under 200. So again, if you're just want to ride that hot streak, kind of one and done for a week, I think he had 2 home runs today against the Mets or something like that. I think they played a doubleheader. I think he's got 10 home runs, not a lot of RBIs, not a lot of average, but he's got a lot of power, a lot of pop in his bat. He can get you some runs as long as he's getting on base. He's a shortstop. So that position, like you said, Lindor, those big guys right now are not really popping off. So if you're just looking for kind of a plug and play for this week, that could be one of those guys, although he may be coming to the end of his hot streak, because it seems like those guys that are kind of no name, they get on a hot streak, they get in there, and then it just fizzles out and you never hear from them again. So
Kevin, I want to add too, when you're looking at making ads where we are in the baseball season, once June hits, you got some guys that are going to be coming off the injured list. And if you've got the room on your injured list, like Syndergaard, for instance, I've got him, and I've got him stashed away right now. I mean, they're saying he's throwing the ball on fire right now. So when he comes back, ideally in June, he might be a guy that's available in your league. If you've got the room there on the injured list, those kind of guys to be watching for now and seeing when they're going to be coming back and if they're worth stashing for a little bit. You got other guys that are injured. Rougned Odor, he's been pretty hot for the Yankees. He's available in a bunch of leagues right now, but he's on the injured list. Recently, Tommy La Stella might be a guy that can help somebody out as well once he comes back. So those are the kind of guys you got to be watching for right now and paying attention to when they're coming back, because a lot of guys will cut them as soon as they're injured. And they're worth going ahead and stashing away, and especially like in keeper leagues, for instance, you can get some of these guys, and it could be a huge steal for you down the road.
Yep, you got that right, Vince. And just one guy I want to throw out there I didn't mention is Nick Pivetta, Boston Red Sox. He's 4-0. He's has a 3.23 ERA. He's 39% owned. If he keeps that up, that's going to go way, way high too. So if you got an opening in your pitching staff, look at Nick Pivetta. So I'm going to throw some names out there, and you just tell me what your initial reaction is. Should this guy be dropped or attempt to trade him? What would you do with him? Mike, if you had Kyle Tucker of the Houston Astros, what do you do with this guy?
I guess it depends on format. If it's just year to year, maybe possibly trade. I don't have a whole lot of high hopes for him, at least this year. He's kind of coming into form. Maybe see what you can get feelers out there. But dynasty, you're going to want to hang on to those young guys, especially that have that kind of upside. So it depends on where you're at. But right now, if you're just kind of like just a year to year, I would try to put those feelers out, kind of like Vince was saying. Those guys, dangle them out there, see what there is, and then maybe drop them, because there's a lot of value still out there right now.
So what would you say, Vince?
Yeah, I'm right on board with that. If you want to get rid of them, you don't drop them. you got to trade Kyle Tucker, and you find an Astros fan in your league, and get as much from him as you can, because Kyle Tucker's a kid. I would take him if I was in your league and you wanted to get rid of him. I'd trade with you. I'd take a chance on him.
Okay. All right. So one other name. I got 3 names. One is Josh Bell. Vince, what do you do with this dude?
Josh Bell is available in all of the leagues that I'm in right now. And yeah. And so at this point, he can't be on your roster. He's the guy you're going to watch because he's got a good chance to come out of this at some point in time. Actually in the last week, he's played far better than he's played up to this point in the season. He's got 6 RBIs in the last week. He has 9 total all season long. So only 1 home run. His batting average in the last week's 267. So it might start to come around right now. So you watch him, but at this point, he can't be on your roster.
All right. So Vince, do you agree? Mike, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I was just say he kind of fizzled out the end of last season. I actually had him. Actually, the same thing last year. He was on the kind of waivers, and I let him sit there to see what would happen. And then I took a flyer on him when I didn't have to waste a waiver on him. I just picked him straight up, but he never. I kind of plugged him in my roster here and there, hoping for a glimmer. I didn't really get a whole lot. I think that's kind of carrying over this season. But everybody sees what he's capable of, what he's done. A lot of these hitters, they're streaky, and he's a big name, but you got to realize he hasn't even been around that long, so we haven't seen his streaks, what he's been up and down. We saw his really good season. So kind of where is he at? And like Vince said, is he going to rebound from this? So you definitely want to put him on the old watch list and see where it goes from there. But yeah, Vince said, he's showing some hope. 260 with the 6 RBIs or whatever he's saying. That in itself in a week is kind of a eye raiser that right now is where you're really going to want to start watching them, because if those baseball junkies in your league, they're just going to pull the trigger. So you definitely want to jump on that. Like I said, I wouldn't do it immediately. Give it about 2 more games, see where he's at. But you'll be able to tell right away.
And the last player that I have is Adam Eaton from the Chicago White Sox. He's hitting .211. He has exactly as many hits as I do sitting in this chair this past week. So I think you got to hit the bricks with him, don't you, Vince?
Yeah, and he's hurt. He's day-to-day right now, so there's a little question there. And the White Sox outfield, man,
it's just brutal.
It's not good. Yeah, but you're right. 0 hits this week. And before that, his season stats, he's batting .211. He's got 18 RBIs. It depends on how deep your league is, but to me, it seems like you're probably going to find a lot better value than them. He's only rostered in 58.1% of ESPN leagues right now. He's been dropped down 22%. So I think it's time to let him go.
Yep, you on board with that, Mike?
Yeah, he's one of those guys that he can essentially be like that 4-tool player. I mean, he's not going to hit you a lot of bombs, but he's going to run into a few here and there. He's always capable of those stolen bases, but I feel like the past couple of years, the injuries are just catching up with him. I remember with Washington, I had him on my roster, and it was just like, man, when he was in the lineup, he was sitting pretty. But I can't tell you the last time that he's played a season where he's played more games than not. And he's just, on my drop list, he's actually on my drop list, one of those guys that at this point, it's just, he's one of those guys that if you can run into him a little later, maybe for a playoff push, if he's healthy, but you're not using him in your roster right now to get to that point.
All right. So Vince, do you have any players that you want to debate?
Man, I'm Asdrubal Cabrera. I know he shouldn't be on my roster anymore, but man, I just can't let him go. I know what he can do, and it's like, and he's really, really been hurting. Right now, my biggest thing is I've got a load of third basemen, and I can't find anyone who will trade with me. So I've got Gio Urshela, I've got Yohan Moncada, and I've got Alec Baum, and I just need to unload them, but I don't want to drop them because they're doing okay, and I can't find anybody to trade with me either. So that's where I'm at.
So you got any players to debate, Mike?
I feel like because of the name, he's had lots of success. Jake Arrieta, he's on the IL right now. He's got about 10 more days. He should be coming back. It depends. Him, Matthew Boyd for the Tigers. There's not a lot of run support in Detroit, not a lot of wins coming. Maybe a Steven Matz out of Toronto. But I just, there's not a lot of value. Adam Eaton could have been one of those guys that, like I said, as much as I say you don't want him right now, if he's healthy, he's one of those guys that, he, like I said, he can really make a push for you. So those are my guys. Deodra is that how you're Atlanta? I know, obviously, catcher, he's out for God knows. I don't even know if it was season ending. I know he's on the 60-day, but those are guys that, when healthy, I know we're not talking injuries right now, but when healthy, those are guys that I think you can make a case for. But right now that, there's no point in even trying to roster these guys, even if they're kind of coming back, again, I go back to it, baseball is so big that the season's so long, the rosters, there's so much value out there. You can run into pitching. It's all about riding that hot streak, and it's really easy to say, but you just want to ride that hot streak, even if don't get caught up in the names in baseball. Don't get caught up in the names.
Yeah, I picked up Dylan Cease last week. I picked up Huascar Yano today. So yeah, Freddie Peralta, I got off of waivers at the beginning of the season. Those are the guys that's what I do. I ride the hot streaks. I look at the ERA, I look at the strikeouts, and I go off of that with my pitchers. And you're going to find them. They're like kickers in the NFL fantasy league. You find the guy that's scoring, and you go get them. And it's okay to let those bottom tier guys kind of rotate throughout the season on and off your roster.
That's true. And The last subject we're going to talk about is, of course, the state of our fantasy rosters. But before we do that, we've got our second sponsor. And Wall Street meets sports gambling in this innovative app, Symbol. And remember, that's SIMBULL. Brings the fun of being able to play for the long term by purchasing, selling, and trading stocks for your teams. When your teams win, you win a payout. When you lose, you don't. The value of your team shares that is what matters, and it's easy to use. Just download the Symbol app on your Play Store and use the promo code Vince.
Belly Up Fantasy.
That's correct. For a $10 deposit bonus of at least $10 or more. Join the fun of investing in your team for the long haul when the sportsbook edge is put back into your hands as the player. For the latest and most fun in sports gambling, download Symbol and again use the promo code all of us Belly Up
Fantasy
for your $10 deposit bonus today. All right, Vince. So what would you say is the state of your fantasy rosters at this time?
I would use one word. Not good, man. Not good right now. I'm in the bottom of all my leagues. It's been a struggle. I've gotten better. Each week my players perform better. I've made a ton of moves in all of my leagues, but at this point I'm just struggling to stay afloat and not get left behind.
So, Mike, what are your state of your roster?
I'm actually doing all right. That Trout pick paid off. My pitching, I need to kind of work on, but I think Trout's carrying me right now. Obviously, he's going to come back to earth, but you got a guy like that. I mean, last year, he didn't even, I don't even believe he hit 300, but he's going to get you all categories. He's going to fill out that box score for you. Like Vince, I mean, I'm not afraid to. And that's my biggest message. You can't be afraid to go after these guys that don't have a name. I mean, even when these September call-ups, depending on where you're sitting, these young guys, man, they're chomping at the bit. A lot of pitchers, Giota or I don't even know, Lucas. I can't even. How do you pronounce his last name? I can't even. I remember when he was a rookie coming up, I was just waiting for him to come in, and I ended up stashing him even before he was on the active rosters. I had him 2 weeks. Those are guys that are going to win your leagues. These young kids coming up. These guys that want to make a name for themselves, names that you probably can't even pronounce, like myself here. But you can't be scared to do that. So right now I'm sitting pretty. Baseball, every time you come to me, I say baseball's a long season, so there's a lot that can happen. But it's all about being active. That's one of the biggest things with baseball. People fizzle out. It's a long season. People fizzle out, and that's where you get it. So you got those guys that, maybe they have those good guys on their roster, but they're kind of locked in there because they kind of fizzle out and they forget about it. So that's where you really got to play that waiver wire and find those up and comers.
Well, and you got to know your rules, right? So this new league that I'm in, super competitive. I was really excited about everything, but I didn't pay attention. There's no inning limit on the pitchers. So these guys are loading up on pitchers, and I'm going, what are they doing? I'm like, oh, man. So now I'm catching on.
Rinse and repeat, man. Rinse and repeat.
That's right. So my fantasy roster is not looking too bad. I'm 3-1 to start the season. And the pitching has carried me. And I remember last week, Vince, we talked about this guy that wanted me to trade Kevin Gossman. And, of course, Anthony Rendon has gone down again. So the fact that I rejected that, yay for me, because he's given up 2 earned runs in his last 3 starts. But apparently now he just has to get over maybe a lot like Howard does, because he had his second shot and it put him down. But they're saying he's supposed to start again Saturday, so we'll see what's going on with him. And I get another pitcher back tomorrow at Rao from Toronto. I try and pronounce this guy's name, and it messes me up every time. So he's supposed to come off there tomorrow. One of the things that I talked about, is avoid a lot of these shortstops at the top of the draft. And I took Marcus Semien, 104th overall, and he has really done it. He has hits in 10 of his last 11 games. He has 6 homers. He has 6 stolen bases. He'll give you power. He'll give you speed. So I'm very pleased with that. And I just had to figure out what's up with Juan Soto going forward. And once I figure that out, and I'm pretty good to go. And I had Molina. Of course, he went on the IL. I picked up Posey, so yay. But Posey, I guess he got hit in the shin today. So
yeah.
I don't know. Dude, it's one of those things where you just leave your catcher because you don't care about your catcher anyway, and just don't make a move at all. So I got to figure that one out.
I picked up Narvaez from the Brewers because someone dropped him because he was injured. So I picked him up and stashed him on my injured list. I got Sean Murphy right now from Oakland, kind of filling the void. But I keep on watching the catchers that are hot because catchers right now, and it's not great in the catcher world.
No, it's like the tight end position of baseball. So, but at least it seems like there's some decent tight ends, at least 2 or 3 of them. And I don't know how there's maybe one catcher that's worth anything out there. So that's what we got in the fantasy world. And Vince, let us know where we can find you and what you're working on.
All right, you can find me on Twitter at Sports Stove. You can find the Sports Stove podcast anywhere you get your podcasts, Spreaker, Apple, Spotify. Always, you can find it on thebellyupsports.com as well. I've got a big week coming up next week. They're doing a UFC 262 preview show, working on getting some UFC fighters on the show. We got our first giveaway, Hot Logic. You plug it in your car and you can cook food in your car. I use it at work all the time. It's phenomenal. I reached out to them, and they said, hey, let us send you one to give away on your podcast. So we're going to give that away. I believe it's going to be Friday night. Next Friday night, we're going to do that. But we'll be promoting it on Twitter at Sports Stove, and you can follow it there.
Well, Mike, as everyone's well aware, you're all over the place on in the belly up world. So anything that's special going on that you'd like to talk about?
No, really, I'm not so much going to shine light on myself. Just thank you guys. Vince is the first time I've been on with you. Yeah. Vince is one of the biggest naturals, I think, on our network. I love his work, listen to him. So I'm glad to be a part of the show, Kevin. I'm glad you took the bull by the horns for this, for the Belly Up Fantasy Live baseball edition. I had the Hoops edition. Dan runs football. Ryan with hockey. It's just awesome to see everything that we're doing come together. You got hiccups here and there, but I mean that's part of the game. But I appreciate you guys letting me be aboard and just thank you guys for all you do for me and the network in general. So
thanks, Mike.
Well, thanks, Mike, and always a pleasure to have on board. And as far as me, Kevin at Kevin62 WILSEA. And my fingerprints are not quite as far as Mike's are, but you'll find me on the Belly Up Fantasy lineup somewhere along the way.
You got a bigger following than I do.
Every week. So check us out. There are a lot of different shows, as Mike mentioned, on the Belly Up Fantasy Network. So get out there, check us out. We're always grateful to all the people that join us. And that's pretty much all we got. So any final closing words, Vince?
I don't think so. Let's go Brewers and see if we can get out of our funk right now. And how about them Nashville Predators? They lost tonight, but making a playoff push in hockey too. So go Sports.
Well, that's all good. All right, go Sports. Mike, any final words?
No, again, I appreciate everything that you guys do. Looking forward to jumping on a few more shows with you guys, if you'll have me.
All right, and we'll catch you on the flip side. And everybody out there, have a great night.